Bienvenido.
Welcome, Reginaldo.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Estar acá con todos
It's a
ustedes.
pleasure to be here with all of you.
De las tierras Lakota, Guapecú,
I'm here from the Lakota land,
en Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Ocupar este espacio ancestral y muy
I am
privilegiado
really happy to occupy this ancestral space,
compartiéndoles a todos ustedes un
Ah,
poquito del conocimiento
and I'm
ancestral
really
que nos ha
happy to
sido
share with
regalado.
you a little bit of my
Antes de
knowledge,
comenzar,
my ancestral knowledge.
este compartimiento, pues quisiera pedirles a todos que
I would like
se
to
centren,
ask all of you
mediten por
to
unos
center
menos de un
yourself,
minuto,
to meditate for a minute and
abrir nuestras mentes,
and
nuestro
to open
corazón,
up our minds
nuestro espíritu
and
a
our
un
spirit.
compartimiento verdaderamente legítimo.
This way we can share, we can have a very legitimate sharing between all of us.
En estas tradiciones,
I'm gonna share with you our traditions,
simple,
and
para
it's the
nosotros
simple,
es debido a que
but for us,
esta conversación en español es muy importante para
because
nuestras comunidades.
this Spanish conversations are very important to our communities. We usually start with the tambor sound, and then when you hear this sound, you exhale, and then you inhale, and then you hear it, you exhale.
Vamos a pedir a los espíritus del cielo que nos
Ask
permitan
the spirits to give us the mental clarity and to open our minds and spirits to all of us. The words that come out of our mouth, may they be legitimate and truthful. Everything that we think and say and speak of that comes out of our heart.
Y ahora, de regreso a la tecnología.
And now let's go back to technology.
Hoy vamos a hablar de un aspecto muy importante de la vida.
We're going to talk about a very important aspect of life,
Como agricultores,
like agricultural people and immigrants, and like citizens of the world.
o le han llamado
We call this
regeneration
regeneration
es un concepto
agriculture.
indígena,
This is an indigenous.
necesariamente de nativo, según
It's not really a native
un concepto
thing, but it's an indigenous.
que es aquel concepto que nos identifica como organismos de la
This is
tierra
the concept
para la
that makes us from earth to earth.
una forma de pensar,
It's a way of thinking, it's a way of being, and a way to make relationships. It's a way to understand the world we live in and the reasons why there are so many life systems in the globe. That's a way of being indigenous. Sadly, a lot of people have been colonized so much that we have lost this. And we have lost this way of thinking, of living. And little by little, we are trying to gain back this knowledge and this way of life. And I hope that this presentation is a way of finding a little more and getting back to you indigenous and gets us all together, all the living beings in this planet. The work that our group does in agriculture, and it's called Regenerative Agriculture. It's a big system with forests and chickens. And in the agricultural world, we have tried to make this and reestablish this as a scientific thing that can work now, that work ecologically with everything in the world and work with our ancestors' systems. Let's understand 3 basic points. It's almost impossible to practice these without these 3 steps. First, we don't produce anything. There's no agricultural person that produces anything. We are just involved in observing and participating in the process of transformation and energy that has been going on from the very beginning. This transformation of energy happens in 3 ways. In the photosynthesis, this makes the chemicals and balances everything out and makes the food for the animals. In this case, we're talking about chickens, but it's not always chickens. There's sheep, goats, all the animals in the world. They all participate in this process. And the next is the intervention of animals. Without animals or photosynthesis, nothing would work, everything would stop. Without this, there would be no earth, there would be no animals. It's that simple. It's a very simple concept. In the case of the animals, the intestines and the symptoms of digestion of the animals represent the track of the earth and the animals, and that includes us. The 3rd point is in the ground. It's a chemical part that goes by the 3 of them. And the energy is in constant movement and transforming. It's a very indigenous thought, way of thinking. And the scientists have proven it. And even though we have known it for several years, it's just a conversion. And in the way we gain this knowledge, the plants are happy and produce more. And they express this in fruits, eggs, vegetables, and whenever you eat any day of the week, it's an expression of energy. It's not a product. This is the way indigenous people believe and think. It's not a production project. It's a way of life. That's the difference between the colonization point of view and the indigenous point of view of agriculture. Now, let's see what we have done with the chickens or the birds. This is what we have to focus with, because this is what 700 million of people that have little lands, and 70% of most of the food comes from the chicken. This is why we chose the chicken. There's a lot of other animals that we could have used. If you're from Honduras, it's probably a pig, but the chicken is more common everywhere in the world. And in this type of agriculture, you have to start with animals because they are the most important point of transformation. Sorry. For example, if you grab a basket of food waste from your home and you put it in a compost, it's going to take a year for it to work. But if you grab that same food and you put it on your for your chickens to eat, in 72 hours you have what you need to plant. That is the beauty of transformation through the animal's intestines. That's why we need to start with the animals. And the one that we found that was best was the chicken. And we found it to be critical to find a system that would work for our indigenous process, if we want to call it the energy process. The chicken is a jungle animal, is not a animal that likes to be in the sun. And this is the animal we chose. It's a very important animal to start the process. So now you grab the chicken and you put it in the 3 points of transformation that we spoke of. And it starts the laboring program, the scientist process, and the space you're going to need, what plants you're going to feed your chickens. And in this case, we're talking about wood, food, forest food, what we call understories. And what we're going to do in the ground. And these are 3 things that we use to start producing energy. Next, we're going to talk about how everything gets together and produces energy. We have eggs, we have fruits, we have meat from the chicken. Then we have energy that is food, not for us, but for other organisms, like the blood, the leaves, the feathers, and we put that into another process that continues, that uses the same logic. And then it transforms into grains, medicines, and then after that, it becomes your food again. So this is a food cycle. It's a cycle of energy that makes food. And at the end, we believe that we're making about 40% of this energy. And we make this energy in a different way than the normal agriculture ways. And that sometimes makes less of what they call produce, because we're using the 70% of the energy that we get and recycling it. If you are using another way that uses more energy than what you are producing, you will not get good results. And we would be making more carbon and a lot of other bad things for the environment. And we use them in a natural cycle that has been around for millions of years. And it is awful and insulting that the system now believes they can manipulate the system, and this is not better or progress. This is a unit to make it more practical. You could see the part in the middle where it's fenced, and the two fields, and the chickens are rotated from one to the next. Right now, the forest, the areas are not made yet. This is a building with chickens. It's designed so that they have enough space, 1 square foot. They have access to light and can get out. And that way they have access every day to go out. The chickens, like in every farm, reach their growing time of 12 weeks, and you make a bigger space. 4 weeks after, they're bigger size where they can go out while they are growing. Out inside, you prepare the outside. And here you have an understory ready. There's a little bit of production of fruits and things in the farther parts of the forest. And some of them have not grown yet, and this space is only 7 years old. It already has a good base of grass where the chicken can come out. We use a lot of sunflowers, a lot of corn. The chicken has to have a little bit of cover, and this is where they go out. They can eat whatever they want. You can barely see the chickens here. The chickens have evolved for over several years, eating the ground. They're capable of eating from the ground, from the trees. A lot of the center of their nutrients is here in the ground, and it's their favorite. They also have concentrate, but they don't have a lot of that. But they eat mostly the things in the ground. These are the chicken that lay eggs. This is the same system, there's just different space. They need a little bit more care, different care, because they produce at least 1 egg a day. And they need the system of support. All this needs to happen so that they could lay, because they keep laying.
This
This is
design
something
that
that
we
happens
have is
at
designed
every
to
scale. It
do
doesn't
it
matter.
at any scale that you want to do it. Recently, I was asked by an England person if how, like in the, that England person said that in 2050, the population is going to grow a lot, and then it was asking that we don't have the system to feed all of that per people. That at that time when that happened, we will have to be able to generate each chicken will have to put or each person would have to have a 10 eggs per person. So we need to have a new system, a regenerative system, a total regenerative one. The the system that we have now is the total manipulation of the reality that we are actually living. This system that we have is a farm system that is being used in different places. You can see this farm, the production in this farm. You could see how dispersed the animals are. This is a system that we have used for many years, and we use their natural habitat. You know, they walk whenever they want, they go wherever they want, they fly, they run, they do whatever they want. And we do this without causing any ecological damage to the ambience. You could see that the regenerative space for them is very sensitive. It's what they need. You could see here again in their habitat. In the morning, in our task, we need to make sure that the water system is working properly. There is not one chicken that stays inside the coop. All of them in a natural cycle, they come out. And we are not talking about 50, 100 chickens. Here we have 1,500 chickens. And you could see the space that they have, and they are regenerating this space. And these chickens are native of this land. They have a food system implementing for them. Here, you could see that that we produce and we use everything, even their feces. We use it. We have a formula to balance nitrogen, carbon monoxide, and all of those things. We use it and we level it up. We have a formula for that. We have then a system that we use all of them, and we put it together and we incorporate it back to the land. And this is a transformative energy. It's really amazing once you see it all together. You can actually, we have 750 vegetables that we produce 100% with this method, with this regenerative energy. We have had times where the plants they get sick and they really don't get back to health. But as you can see, our vegetables, fruits, traditional corn. This is the ancestral corn, the traditional one. This one is ancestral again. It came from Guatemala, and we produce it. We have garlic. We have pollination. Yes. And the idea is we are engaged in the regenerative energy. In terms of value, we have calculated that the value of this is 12 to 30 times better. again, our idea is a system, not a farm. The farm is a model. The idea is to create, to be able to survive. It's a system. The idea is to add the egg production. And then in this way, we can generate a system that can support our living, like our processors. For instance, our seed production and system, we want to access to big scale capital training. We want this system to be able to sustain itself, and then we integrate different products. We are also thinking, looking for a system that we incorporate native fishes that are from this area. Instead of putting all these things in a compost place, all these waste, we can put this back into the land itself, and that will go into the mouth of the animals. And then in this case, we want to use the fish and to produce it and generate it. The idea is a complete integration of everything we have. We have about 14 to 20 sectors that we want or that we integrate. And then each sector integrates to the next one. We are currently putting together the first integrative model in the farm. The first integration model. We are basically systematizing the farm. This is the family farm, the Salvatierra. This is 75 acres. And this immediately we divided into different zones and areas. 48.5 acres are to the point that you can know, or they were to the point that they couldn't grow. We couldn't do anything. We started working on it, and then we started to regenerate the land, water. You could see that what we created here, a lake in the lowest point, and then what we wanted was we were waiting for the water to actually start incrementing and start growing to start keep those nutrients to the land. And then you would see that we kind of made a walk. Here you could see the squares that are marked. Here that are 8,000 that are marked with squares. And now you could see that we have chickens that are gonna be able to go here And this in translation will be 950,000 in production that we have been able to produce. This is a picture of the actual community. And you see the space that you saw with the squares, it will get to the point that it will be like this. And it's the attractiveness that it has spiritually, it makes you whole. Everything is calculated into this ancestral system that we have. You cannot get this in an intellectual university college. And we have to, in order to acquire this intellectual knowledge, ancestry knowledge, we have to share it. This is how you acquire it. The chicken, of course, is very happy. It's a happy chicken. Economically, it's very simple. These numbers are for this farm. Please don't take it and make it for everybody. Here we have 40 acres. We have a production of chicken, and this is the production that we have. We have hazelnuts, 6,000 pounds, and that will be 30,000 at the end. That will be equal to 30,000. And then the elderberries acres, we have 10 acres. That will be about 15,000 pounds. That will translate to 45,000. We have 11 farms that are working in a collective form. Bueno, and then the chickens, they really don't need the 40 acres. They only take 12. In the last 2 years in our experimental farm, we have generated about 7,000. And then in terms of production with the eggs, in 8 acres that they take, we have 1.1 million eggs. That translates to $244,000. And then within a forest of 26 acres, and then with the agriculture, within 180 days, that will be equal to 22,000. The soy and the corn, we have an excellent year. We had an income of 641,708. We do this as we work with the creation and for the creation. We don't want to make more. We don't want to make less. We're doing this in an indigenous way. This system is very different than a technological one. And in the same terms, the science, we use the science, but we use the land science. We don't extract the value of the land. This is the traditional, the conventional system. You can feel it. We work with the extraction of the value of the living system. We give all the credit to the conventional system, to the extraction. the ecologic perfil or system. We eliminate synthetics. We eliminate the land, contaminating the land, contaminating the water. We have 6% of organic matter on the soil. If we want to talk about the climate change, we have 2.5 carbon save per acre every year.
Como sabemos, 1% de materia orgánica en el suelo nos permite capturar y redistribuir y utilizar hasta 26,000 galones de agua.
And as you know, the retention of the water within the organic matter for 1%, we could retain even 26,000 gallons of water. We even processing 26 millions of gallons of water. And then depending on the season and how it goes, we could make even double. This is something that in any other system, it could be taken the regenerative system.
También se trata de construir comunidades o ecosistemas. Esto, con la alianza, nosotros hemos logrado crear un ecosistema en donde cada sector tiene una función especializada.
This is about changing the ecosystem.
En Minnesota, we built a group, Regenerative Poultry. We're training them. My business is working and building the same thing in their region, and we're working with them to support them. I'm just a very famous chef who lives here in Minnesota and is Guatemalan, and she's also working on doing this. Also, Pre-Ring, and there's another company that's working and making this and contracting this, and we have separated a lot of functions, and we have started them over in this system. This is a system that works. It's a system that we are trying to make bigger on a bigger scale and move into other states. It's something that is easy to replicate. It doesn't need to be done just in one space. And in our region, we bought a plant in Spaceyville. And now we're working with Minnesota. We're also working on something on Alberlin. In March, we will be launching another program, and designing them in this system that we have learned in Guatemala. This plant is already being worked by these people, and they're gonna be worked for $1 a year so that they can make the decisions and make a just system according to the ancestral ways. We have made this in a diagram right here. It's not just the design, but if you take a picture of the universe, It looks a lot like this. If you take a picture of somebody's brain, it also looks like this. And interestingly, it's something that you see in a lot of countries and other regions in the world that they have designed where most of the work is on the outside and the inside have anchors, carriers. These carriers in the Mayan system work in the first circle and then expand and consolidate with the next, and then keep growing in a way like a community does. So those are the news that we have and the story that I wanted to share with you today. I hope that you guys are motivated and have been feeling the fire inside, that you say, I can do this, we can do this. And that we can live in a so much better world and a happier world and a more peaceful. And we have to think about it in our mind, talk with our voice and bring it to our heart so it can happen. Thank you for sharing what you know, your knowledge and your experiences with us. Let's start to see if we can ask some questions. Thank you for this amazing example of regenerative animal agriculture. What are you?
Utilizar como cojín, colchón, no sé.
What do you use as bedding in the chicken houses, and how do you integrate the saturated bedding manure back into our systems? Do you spread it directly into the ground in the outdoor grazing area or in compost piles?
Sí, usamos viruta de carpintería, lo que acá le llaman wood shavings. Y es importante usar esto en donde las gallinas duermen. En el espacio afuera usamos pajón, o sea.
We use whatever's left over from the oats or straw. We use a lot of that outside to cover the ground that is exposed where the chickens are being raised. Like, how do you, that's the way we use them. We have a very simple way of use. We use wood chips. We mix them one.
Se mezcla y se pone directamente, sea como mulch para los surcos de avellanas o de elderberries o de árboles, o se usa lo que le llaman aquí deep bedding, o sea, colchones muy profundos que cuando se usa de esa forma, entonces en lugar de mezclarlo, cuando no se va a usar como mulch a nivel de escala grande, cuando se va a usar en una forma más concentrada para producción, digamos, de vegetales y de hortalizas, entonces hacemos lo que le llamamos deep bedding, pero no la mezclamos, sino que se hace lo que aquí le llaman layer composting. Eso quiere decir, se usa primero, si es,
then we do layer composting. And then if it has a lot of weed,
si no lo manejan bien, pues van a pasar toda su vida pues tratando de arrancar malezas.
Especially if you don't do it right, if you don't manage it right, then you're
Can you
gonna
guys
spend
hear me? Sorry.
Trabajar menos y disfrutar más. Entonces,
you're gonna spend all the time cleaning up. So you don't do that. So you really need to clean the entire place. You need to clean it up. Take all the weeds away. There are zones that is not permitted, that you cannot do that. Then you need to, for instance, put some rocks on it. The plant is divided into two things, the part that we see and the part that we don't see. The part with weeds is the plant, when this happens, it keeps growing, and the part that goes to the land is the same length as the one that is outside the land. Without photosynthesis, what happens is that the plant doesn't grow in the same terms. They don't go through the same length. And then what we have to do to make it better, we have to put a third of on top. We lay down a third of manure, and then we lay it down. And then once that happens, it immediately takes away the oxygen. Then it goes dying. It goes dying, and then you start you start taking care of the weed. And then what happens with this is that what happens is that with the manure on that, you put the manure, and then by doing that, the plant is not going to have enough oxygen. Then the plant also is not going to have enough light. Then the weed, it goes dying, and it goes dying slowly but surely. And then you continue that, continue putting the sterco, the manure, until you get into a 6 inches to that plant. And then you continue doing it like that. And then at one point, on top of all this, you can start planting. And then if later on weed starts growing back on, you can just take it out, because you have covered that part with the manure, and you have make a different soil too. And then, to be honest with you, the quality of the crop that comes out is incredible. It's really good. Again, we are not going to distort the soil, the land. We just plant on top of that. You just put layer on top of layer on top of layer, covering the plant with the manure, and covering so it won't have oxygen and all that. That again, this is a training that we have today, just one training, but the level of knowledge and tradition that we have, that the agronomy has within its tradition is tremendous, it's huge. And then, the land, it heals itself.
Gracias, Reginaldo. Déjame ver si hay más preguntas en el chat.
Thank you, Reginaldo. Let me check the chat and see if there are more questions.
Yeah, I guess the second part of the question was, do you spread it directly on the ground in the
I,
outdoor grazing areas or in compost piles?
Ya, o sea, sí respondí la pregunta.
yes, I
Um,
do.
Did anyone ¿alguien más tiene más preguntas? Oh, okay, otra. Si tienes problemas con los pollos subiéndose a los árboles, haciendo roosting.
Another question is, do you,
empiezas
if you have
a-
if you have any problems with the chickens going up, getting up on the trees and things like that, do you make them go back to the coop?
No tenemos problemas. Sería muy fácil
It,
tener esos problemas.
it will be very easy to have that problem. We don't have that problem though.
Yo calculo que no hay mucha diferencia.
I
¿Cómo respondería esta
I
pregunta que alguien que le pregunta a alguien cómo evita que los gatos hagan pipí y se
I
duerman?
think
O
I think that there wouldn't be any difference if you if in the answer if you ask a person what to do with a cat that pees and then goes on and sleep on the pee.
con que se entrenan,
You know, there will be any difference. The discipline that you train the animals is you know that they follow it. It's what they do.
pues es irrespetuosa y
If you discipline them, if you train them in a with this respect and all of that, then they will not follow you. We had to, and you had to use a psychology to it as well. You know,
hay ciertas cositas muy simples. Por ejemplo,
there are times that the chicken wants to go on the tree and all that.
necesita una rama horizontal.
For instance, if you have a tree that has a vertical branches, the chicken will not care about it. It needs a vertical one to go on it. So there are tricks that you can make to make it unappealing.
Cuando haces tus podas, pues poda.
You know, so when you are cleaning up the trees and all that, they cleaning it up in a way that is not that the chicken will not be interested in that tree. You know, you need to train your animals so they can start understanding what they need to do. You know, because if you don't do it right, they will take the living room, the bathroom, the kitchen, they will take everything. You know, it's in our case, the first 3-4 days is when they go onto the land. That's how we start training them. You know, we start training them. The chicken usually don't want to be outside at night. You know, because why? Because that's where the other critters eat them. You know, in their ancestral mind, the chicken knows. They know they cannot be outside. That's why they want to go on the tree to be safe. You know, the chickens see themselves outside and then they panic. They want to go on the tree because it's like it's getting dark. I cannot be out here. I need to go on the tree. But if you train them, they get accustomed to go inside the coop. See, the chicken will go up on the tree because it will panic. You know, but if you put her in the coop, she will go back in the coop. She will be sleeping safely and sound. And you can use any type of training skills that other people have used to train any other animal. And also, it doesn't matter how many chickens. 5 chickens will be trained the same way as 1,500 chickens. It's the same.
Gracias, Reginaldo. Hay otra pregunta de John. Dice, mil gracias por su presentación. ¿Se puede, por favor, hablar un poco sobre su sistema de
Another
invierno?
question is, could you please talk about a little bit about your system and the winter? How does go?
En el invierno, acá en Minnesota, pues no criamos pollo. Un principio simple de la mente
Yeah,
intuitiva
up
es
here
nunca
in
pelees con la
in
naturaleza.
Minnesota, the
Siempre
winter
vas a perder.
is different.
You're always going to lose.
Entonces, si está frío,
So if it's cold,
pues no críes animales que no pueden
don't
sobrevivir en el
raise
frío.
animals that can't survive in the cold. Raise animals that like the cold. The chicken don't like the cold. So that's where the work is, and keeping them in not. If you want this, you should get sheep. If you, I don't care how many sweaters you put on me. I don't like the cold. I don't want to go out. So the chicken, we only produce them during the summer because we're not gonna fight with the nature. So we have raised them here in Minnesota and raised them and have fixed a solar waste to keep them.
Captura con paredes solares, capturamos ese calor, lo almacenamos en roca debajo del piso de la gallina. Ese calor entonces se captura y luego la roca se calienta y luego esa roca libera el calor durante la noche. El calor se captura a nivel del suelo para que así no importe si a 10 pies de altura o 8 pies de altura está frío. La gallina solo le interesa ese pie, un pie arriba del suelo. Entonces, con ese calor logramos meter sistemas de germinación de granos en el invierno y total. Pero lo hicimos, pues, está el área aislada, o sea, el área insulated, donde la gallina duerme. Ahí tiene agua y tiene perches para dormir. Y ahí tiene los nidos donde pone el huevo. Eso es todo lo que tiene ahí. ¿Por qué? Porque el huevo y el agua tienen que estar arriba del punto
Perdóname,
de
¿podemos pasar por un momento?
Ajá.
Tenemos problemas con la traducción. No podemos oír a María.
Oh.
Sorry. I can't hear Maria. I'm just going to pause for 1 second.
Yeah, thank you.
Could you hear me now?
Yes.
This button must have pressed, sorry.
All right, sorry. Reginaldo.
Okay. No hay problema. Entonces, esa metodología nos permitió
Entonces,
desarrollar
that
un sistema alternativo de producción de huevos
makes a system where we can
hasta 30 grados
have eggs
bajo cero,
even when it's cold.
completamente natural.
We made it in a very natural way with rocks and keeping the earth warm, but it's a lot of work and we're allergic to work. So what we're doing now after making the system is trying to move the whole production of eggs to the state in the south where they're warmer and they can produce the eggs, instead of us trying to win a war with nature that we will never win. So I think it's making things a little bit smaller scale, making 5 chickens for your family, keeping in the winter. That way it works perfectly. And you could have some for your family. But that's not our objective. Our objective is making a big system that can regenerate themselves, and this is in a big scale. But we also don't want to go against nature. And we have to transform our property and work in distribution by work from our people, not from a big company, but our community. What you do in your field or in your farm is how things is organized. That's where the secret is. If you organize this in a right way, your property, your capital, everything will work. If we don't do it in the right way, we always end up being colonized because the money and the power always breaks you. And we need to be based on our community. We have a lot more responsibility in our community. And if we don't do that, we lose the battle. We're trying to focus. That way the answer is to what we do in the winter. It's really not based on my system,
Gracias por esa
because we don't fight against nature.
Y bueno, ya estamos 5 minutos a la hora. Desgraciadamente tenemos un horario. No estamos
Sadly,
allá en la
time
zona
is
donde
done. You don't have
platicando.
the luxury, and like in my country, where we just sit down and talk for
Pero
hours.
no sé si alguien más tiene
But if
alguna
anybody
otra
has
pregunta.
another question,
Si les parece
and
bien,
if not,
a todos,
and it's
si
okay with
ponen una
everybody,
camarita para que yo les tome una foto
I want you guys to put on your camera, if it's okay, so we can take a picture of everybody, so we can put in our website. It would be very beautiful to see your face. Thank you.
Oh, qué bueno verles. Thank you for turning your camera on. It's so good to see your faces. I'm gonna wait one more minute. And if you don't want to be in the picture, it's okay. Get it. Okay, estoy tomando la foto ahora.
Okay, I'm taking the picture now.
Okay.
Okay,
Gracias por
thank you
eso.
for letting me take this picture.
No sé, ¿hay alguna otra pregunta?
Is there any other question? Yes. Martin Anderson, ask the question.
La verdad, mira, yo he producido 100, 150 gallinas en mi casa, pero es como lo que le llamamos seguridad o soberanía. Eso lo haría yo por soberanía, no con la intención de vender. Y el asunto está.
I would do this not with the intention to sell, and to make it in something that has a spiritual value with us. That's the reason why I do it that's why I do my corn, my beans, not to sell them, because this gives me a spiritual connection to my food. We're not consumers of food either. Just like we don't produce food, we're not consumers. We shouldn't be consumers, we should be participants of our health, spiritually and physically. That's why we eat. It's a different concept. If I'm gonna work with 100, 150 chickens, that's what we use for our family maybe in a year. I don't want to sell my spirit or my culture. We see in this point of view, the reason why we don't produce chickens in small scale is because economically it doesn't make sense, and spiritually is what's important. And I wouldn't be able to sell my spirit either. If I want to make something commercial, let's talk about what makes sense and the scale that makes sense. There's a middle space that we're not involved in. In Guatemala and in Mexico, it's a little different. Here we have to be a lot more practical. In Guatemala, the difference is that the amount of chicken in the country that are in the backyard of your house, there's like 36 million of them. In the backyard, there's more than 1,000 families that have chickens in their backyards. And these groups are less than 30 chickens. and rural families. In comparison, we have 11,000 more. In those conditions, of course, it works to sell some chicken every once in a while because people do it all the time because there's a system that supports small groups of chickens. That doesn't happen here in this country because we have destroyed that structure and the support system to have this type of system and to produce in that scale. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the person that was asking this question. That's the logic that we use in this case.
Well, we can talk for hours. Podríamos hablar
But
por horas. Pero te agradecemos un montón, Reginaldo.
we're very thankful for everything you said, Reginaldo. Your knowledge has no price. I am very interested in your system and how we can make it work here in the Northeast. And we'll be communicating.